Alright, continuing along with the check-in with the Shadow of the Gods. Um, yes, so this Sky Witch or whatever, she is one of the tainted. She knows how to get there, but she isn't going to give up. She isn't going to give up that information because she knows, look, once I take you there, you'll have no use for me, and you won't help me find my son. And they end up going with, okay, you're going to take. She says, okay, you refuse to like do it in the other order, so you're going to take an oath, and this oath is one of these magical oaths that if you break it, your blood will boil inside of you, and you will die screaming if you try and break this oath. So they agree to this. Um, Elvar Elvar is one of the ones who takes it because she heard she heard the witch talk about it. She decides thusly to not stay with her father. Her father, who she left because he just wanted to marry her off as I think a brood hen to some dumb princeling to breed more warriors. Um, so she but she comes back and he offers her a war band of her own, basically everything she wanted. And she goes to this very interesting thing they have the head of a giant, which apparently was it's it his head was bitten off his body by one of these ancient creatures, like I think in the form of like some kind of a dragon, and swallowed, but some part of its immortality mixed with his head, so he is now his head is eternally alive, and it ended up at the bottom of a fjord where it was then fished out. So at least he says like, well, this is a little bit better than the eons he spent in in the rotting corpse of this god counting teeth and the fish going by. But he always liked Elvar, and she would always pour beer through his mouth and it would just go onto the floor. But at least he got to taste it. And he gives her some advice, or at least he gives her a thing of saying like, well, basically, a wolf doesn't turn into a sheep, or vice versa. Basically, a leopard doesn't change its spots, is the thing. And it's like, well, my father has not changed his spots. He always says one thing but actually means another, and this is probably some trickery. So she goes off with the warband, goes off to look for this thing. They're going into weird country where they find people hung up, and gutted, and the intestines spilled out like they're basically animals for slaughter, hung on trees, um, with the thing saying like, forbidden. You're in the forbidden zone, forbidden area, not sacred but forbidden. Um, where I guess it's going to be all the bones of the gods, and where the big tree was, the big life tree was, but they can't see it anywhere. It's like, well, things aren't going to be what they were like in the days of old. And they've funded off a couple of attacks. Her main dude, this guy who swore fealty to her mother and has followed her along on her adventures, leaving behind the woman that he loves, who had sworn fealty to her her uh, her father, gets injured, and there's a kind of a sickening time in there where she's like, is he gonna wake up? Like, is he just in a coma? After fighting off all these weird creatures, like to rip the teeth out of human beings. They love human teeth. It's one of those happy little things. Don't have a great visualization on them yet, but that will come. What all these odd creatures look like. You should probably look up some fan site. It gives me a better idea of what stuff like this looks like, because I don't have a quite a clear vision. So there's that happening. Orca is getting chased by the queen whose sculling killed um, her friend's father, her friend. She's teamed up with the two sons, trained them a bit, sort of her thing of mothering, which is beating the shit out of him, which is a lot like Vrail and his. Oh shoot! Somebody has gotten in. There. Theo, hey, come here, come on. How did you get in? Come on, Theo. Okay. So yes, lots of plot stuff is happening. I mean, this is one of these books where it's less of a we're going to get into themes and stuff, as we're just going to have cool, really kick-ass adventures. They're going to, beat the heck out of each other and get beaten the heck out of. So I don't know if I have anything more to say. I could go on and on about the plot, which is good because it keeps it in my mind. Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth. This might be my case of literary and kind of weirder fiction where there's a little bit more thematics to go on in. I was thinking about the whole thing of like, okay, this is a very white world. This is very traditional fantasy in a way. Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, Tolkien was very much into his Norse and Germanic mythology. And I'm reading Black Leopard, Red Wolf at the moment, which is African mythology, which is quite different and, to be frank, probably a lot more challenging and freaky and otherworldly, deeper into the psyche. Not so much we're getting, deeper into the psyche, whereas this is more of where Shadow of the God is much more of an adventure story. So it's a cool adventure story, but yeah, and I guess we have the themes of, loyalty, reliance. We have the things of vengeance, thirst for battle glory, which is, I guess, individual ambition, versus, perhaps wider scope of things, which might actually be the villains. I don't know. All right. And there's the idea of the tainted and their magic, which there's a priest guy along who really hates them, and it's because he says, like, well, it's because I had to learn my magic by learning, and it was something that came from that discipline where it's tainted. It just is. And the guy who's like, I think it's Raoul, is just like, well, I don't know this stuff. It's like, what makes one bad and one good, kind of that idea. And that really pisses off the priest guy, which might be also kind of a thing of who's got the power, and that the tainted don't have the power and are indeed chained with ancient chains, magic chains that hold them in sway for regular human beings. And if they didn't have those chains, be interested to see how the world would be going. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.